Night settles over Hotin. Campfires flicker. Orders soften into whispers. Fog slides in from the river and swallows distance, depth, certainty. On one side, 35,000 Ottoman soldiers, seasoned, confident, backed by an empire that expects numbers to decide outcomes. On the other, 3,000 Polish cavalry, exhausted, outnumbered, aware that daylight favors their enemy. The arithmetic is obscene. More than 10 to 1. By every rule of early modern warfare, this should end in annihilation. But the Poles are not preparing to defend. They are preparing to attack, at night, into an enemy camp, through fog thick enough to break formations and silence commands. This is not a story about courage alone. It's about timing, psychology, and a single decision that turns darkness into a weapon. By dawn, one army will still exist as an army. The other will not. This is the Hotin Night Charge, and how impossible numbers were made irrelevant. The night is not supposed to belong to cavalry. Not in the early 17th century. Not against an army this large. The battlefield lies outside Hotin, near the slow bend of the Dniester River. The ground is uneven, cut by shallow ditches and trampled earth. Fog hangs low, thick enough to blur banners at 50 paces. The numbers are brutally clear. Roughly 35,000 Ottoman troops press forward after weeks of fighting. Facing them, barely 3,000 Polish cavalry, supported by tired infantry already stretched thin. That's more than 10 to 1, and that ratio understates the problem. The Ottomans control the initiative. They control the daylight. They control supply depth. Their camp stretches wide, dense with men, horses, artillery, and confidence. The Poles know this. They can hear it at night. The noise of an army that believes victory is inevitable. Laughter, metal on metal, fires burning without fear of surprise. And yet, the Polish command understands something crucial. Numbers only matter when they can be brought to bear. In fog, in darkness, in confusion. The mathematics say survival is unlikely. The logic of doctrine says attack is madness. Which is exactly why this moment should have ended in a massacre. By this stage of the campaign, the Ottoman army is doing what it has done for generations, grinding opponents down through pressure and scale. This is not a reckless force. It is a professional war machine backed by the full weight of the Ottoman Empire. Its commanders have learned to win by method, not impulse. Daylight assaults, probe. Artillery softens, cavalry waits for collapse, not glory. And collapse feels close. Each day, Ottoman formations push nearer to the Polish positions. Each night, their camp grows louder, more relaxed. Fires burn openly. Horses are watered in bulk. Units mix freely. Confidence leaks into every routine. From the Polish side, the view is bleak. Infantry formations are worn down. Ammunition is rationed. Horses, elite mounts meant for decisive charges, are being used simply to hold the line. Every delay favors the Ottomans. Every sunrise tightens the arithmetic. The Ottoman command believes time itself is an ally. Why rush? Why gamble? But here is what the chronicles don't tell you at first glance. An army of 35,000 only functions as a single weapon when communication is intact, when signals are visible, when officers can see their units and units can see each other. At night, that advantage collapses. Fog smothers distances. Sound replaces sight. Orders lag. Rumors outrun commands. The Ottoman camp, so powerful in daylight, becomes a dense concentration of confusion, potential. Tens of thousands of men who do not yet know what is happening, but are ready to panic when they do. Inside the Polish command, the conclusion is brutal and simple. If they wait, they are destroyed. If they attack by day, they are destroyed. So the only remaining option is the one no doctrine recommends. The breaking point comes quietly. There is no dramatic council scene, no speeches meant for history, just exhausted officers staring at maps they already know by memory, listening to the same conclusion repeat itself in different words. The Ottoman pressure is increasing. Polish infantry cannot absorb another full-scale daylight push. Supplies will not improve. Reinforcements are not coming. If nothing changes, the end is predictable. That's when the idea stops sounding insane. and starts sounding necessary. Not a defensive maneuver, not a retreat. A night cavalry strike, launched directly into the Ottoman camp. By doctrine, this is madness. Cavalry requires space, visibility, coordination. At night, horses spook. Riders lose alignment. Units fragment. One mistake turns shock troops into chaos. And yet, the Polish command is not thinking in terms of killing power. They are thinking in terms of reaction time. A camp of 35,000 men cannot wake, identify the threat, form ranks, and counterattack instantly, especially in fog. The first minutes matter more than casualties. If panic spreads faster than orders, numbers become a liability instead of protection. One subordinate reportedly voices the fear everyone shares. What if we charge and never come back? The answer is not comforting. Then we lose anyway. This is the psychological hinge of the battle. The plan is stripped to its essentials. No prolonged engagement. No attempt to hold ground. Maximum speed, maximum noise, maximum disorientation. The cavalry will hit the edge of the camp, tear through tents and fires, and disappear before a coherent response forms. Then, if possible, strike again from another angle. Not to destroy the Ottoman army, but to convince it that it is already being destroyed. Here's where legend meets tactical reality. Fog neutralizes Ottoman coordination. Darkness compresses perception. Shock multiplies threat size in the human brain. A few thousand riders, moving fast enough, can feel like an army 10 times larger. If they hit where fear spreads fastest, everything depends on timing. Everything depends on whether panic outruns command. Once the order is given, there is no undoing it. The cavalry mounts in silence. Armor is checked by touch, not sight. Weapons are gripped tighter than usual. Ahead lies an empire's army, asleep, confident, and about to be introduced to chaos. The attack begins deep in the night. There is no signal horn, no shouted command. Movement starts as pressure. Horses leaning forward, riders lowering their weight, hooves muffled by damp ground and fog. Then speed. The first impact hits the outer edge of the Ottoman camp, where sentries are fewest and confidence is highest. Tents collapse inward. Campfires scatter, throwing sparks and shadows in every direction. Men wake to noise before sight, instinct before understanding. For the first 30 seconds there is no resistance, only confusion. Ottoman soldiers stumble out half-armed, some running toward the sound, others away from it. Horses scream. Supply carts overturn. The darkness makes every rider feel closer, faster, larger than he is. Within 5 minutes, panic has begun to propagate. Units cannot tell how many attackers there are. Officers cannot see their formations. Orders are shouted, then contradicted, then lost entirely. A counterattack forms in one sector, only to be hit again from a different direction moments later. This is shock warfare at its purest. The Polish cavalry does not linger. It cuts through, vanishes, then reappears elsewhere, each pass reinforcing the same terrifying idea. The camp is surrounded. In reality, it isn't. But perception outruns truth. The mathematical impossibility begins to flip. 35,000 men cannot act as 35,000 individuals at night. They act as thousands of isolated groups, each reacting to fear, not command. Some Ottoman units attempt to form ranks and fail. Others retreat into each other. Elite formations hesitate, waiting for clarity that never comes. By the time coherent resistance starts to emerge, the damage is already done, not in bodies alone, but in control. This is the moment historians struggle with. The Polish cavalry does not defeat the Ottoman army in the conventional sense. It breaks the system that allows such an army to function. When dawn approaches, the Ottomans still have numbers, but they no longer have cohesion, and without cohesion, numbers are meaningless. When the fog thins and daylight finally exposes the field, the scale of the damage becomes clear. The Ottoman army is still vast, But it is no longer unified. Tens of thousands of men are alive, yet scattered. Units are separated from commanders. Equipment lies abandoned. Horses are loose. Supply lines are tangled or destroyed. What should be a single, coordinated force now behaves like fragments reacting independently. Casualty figures vary by source, but the outcome does not. Ottoman losses, killed, wounded, missing, are estimated in the tens of thousands, inflicted over days of fighting and amplified by the night's collapse. Polish losses are heavy, but nowhere near decisive. The exchange ratio is grotesquely uneven. More important than the dead is what disappears with them. Momentum. The Ottoman advance stalls. Confidence is gone. Commanders who expected inevitable victory now face an army that refuses to break, and has proven it can strike anywhere, anytime. Negotiations follow. The campaign ends without the decisive Ottoman triumph that numbers promised. Militarily, the lesson is enduring. This is not remembered as a cavalry miracle. It is remembered as a case study in system failure, how morale, communication, and perception can outweigh raw strength. Modern military academies still analyze this moment, not for romance, but for logic. An army does not collapse when it loses men. It collapses when it loses control. Think about what actually happened here. 3,000 cavalry did not defeat 35,000 soldiers by strength alone. They won by understanding fear, timing, and the limits of numbers. In daylight, arithmetic decides battles. In darkness, psychology does. The Hotin Night Charge proves a brutal truth of warfare. An army doesn't lose when it's outnumbered. It loses when it no longer knows what is happening around it. Sometimes, victory isn't about fighting harder. It's about breaking the moment before the fight even begins.